I'm exhausted. This is exhausting. This is, honestly, I didn't think I could be shocked by this case anymore. And then we got this. This is, if you don't know, they filed the unredacted, except for personal information like addresses and stuff. They unredacted all of Lively's initial disclosures. So she has her originals, then she updated them, and then she updated them again. This is the last update, which I believe is in late July. And in your initial disclosures, you have to list the general amount of damages that you're seeking and how you're going to calculate that. And the reason that you have to do that early in the case is so everybody knows what's at stake. And honestly, so that everybody can figure out, if we're going to try to settle this thing, what kind of numbers are we talking about? So these are numbers that she's put out there, I believe, for the last time at the end of July. I am sure that between me, Britt, Little Girl Attorney, and BB, we are going to fully and completely cover this issue, if not overcover it, because this is just bonkers. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I saw at first glance that I thought might be helpful to people in understanding all of this. First of all, this is how damage calculations are created or categorized in the law. There's economic damages, I have lost money. Then there's non-economic damages, which is pain and suffering, and they're also putting reputation in there. Then there's punitive damages, which are a multiplication of economic and non-economic damages. They don't exist alone. And then, of course, there's attorney's fees and costs. So if you add all of this up, I went to law school because I'm not good at math, but if you add all of this up, it is somewhere between $120 and $200 million. That does not include all of her attorney's fees that she's incurred, which I think most of us have been saying is in the tens of millions of dollars. Here's what I think people need to know. First of all, this is just what she's saying she's going to ask for. This doesn't mean that she gets it. This doesn't mean that she's proven it. This is just her saying, this is what I'm going to ask a jury to ultimately give me. She still has to prove every single element of her case, in addition to proving that these are her actual losses. So her asserting these numbers is not evidence, it's not proof. It is just a statement to say, here's how I think I was damaged, and this is what my case is going to try to prove, okay? Hold on. So there's a lot of different categories here, but here's something I think you need to know from the beginning. See where it says non-economic damages, and it says pain and suffering, physical pain and humiliation in the range of 250 to 400. That number right there, 250 to 400, is the entirety of her damages for the sexual harassment claim. That's it. Everything else is for the retaliation or the defamation, or even potentially those breaches of contract. But that 250 to 400, where she says, this is my pain and suffering and humiliation, that is the only part of this, somewhere between $100 and $200 million worth of damages. That is the only number she is claiming represents what happened, what her damages, what her injury was as a result of being sexually harassed on set. And I cannot wait for the Lively people to get in here and try to start lecturing me about feminism like they do, and about how this isn't about the money. This is about the fact that she was harmed. And if it's not about the money, okay, like I've said before, I wouldn't be surprised if she pulled a Taylor Swift and was like, I just want $1. But you cannot separate that from the retaliation damages of over $100 million. This case isn't about the sexual harassment first and the retaliation second. She has said this case is about the retaliation first and the sexual harassment second. And this calculation proves it. Now, when you get into the calculations, you get a little bit more detail. $17 million in relation to lost acting or producing opportunities is fascinating to me there. You lost producing opportunities by getting a PGA credit? Fascinating. At least $500,000 in relation to lost speaking opportunities. She gets paid to talk? I mean, I know everybody, there's like Speakers Bureau. I wonder what she talks about. And then $300,000 to $450,000 in relation to lost appearances. Again, I'm dying to know what she gets paid to appear places. Apparently, she does. And then they go into lost future wages in the range of 37 million, and it talks about like things she would have gotten had this not happened. Now, just don't freak out, because this is where the causation problem has been. Literally the second video I ever made was she's going to have a real problem with causation in that retaliation stuff. In order to get even $1 of this, she has to prove not only that they engaged in this smear campaign, but that the smear campaign was the cause of her reputational damage and not her own actions or something else entirely, like a bad algorithm, right? So this represents her best case scenario. Now you're going to see in there, for every calculation of damages for every category, it says subject to expert testimony, because you have to have experts testify to this, because, you know, a normal person can't get up there and just be like, I don't know, it feels like 37 million, right? Johnny Depp did this. I do think he had a very different case, especially because he had a project on the table and he was able to say, that was my project, and they took it away, and they took it away because of what happened, but we'll see. But these experts, y'all, she is spending so much money. I'm really starting to think that maybe her team is just like, let's bleed this chick dry, because it's expert. Do you know how long an expert would have to work to justify $18 million worth of lost acting opportunities in a field where literally, like, there's not even, like, it's not even reasonable who gets picked for what? There's not like a rule about who gets picked for what. Like, that's bananas. And then, of course, we get to the lost profits for Blake Brown and Betty Boos. Really? This is the hardest part, has always been the hardest part. And this is just a lot of jargon about lost cash flows, and they've discounted it to its present value, which is like stuff that you do when you're doing lost profits. As I've said before, lost profits are incredibly hard to prove. But, you know, the fact, I mean, I guess what we're looking at really is that Blake Brown lost $49 million last year, and Betty Boos lost $22 million last year. So, again, this is the end if she proves all the other, that there was a smear campaign, that they were behind it, that smear campaign caused people not to like her, that smear campaign that caused people not to like her is what changed her reputation, that reputation is what caused people not to buy this, right? And that nothing came in from the side and affected that, which is just really, really hard to do. And then she has this category at the bottom of reputational harm, which is, this is the one I got to see the expert report for this. So she's saying essentially here, I believe, there were 65 million impressions on social media of the defamatory statements, which must be the stuff that she's claiming Friedman said, because remember, he's the subject of the defamation. And those 65 million impressions are worth $34 million in damages. That's fascinating to me for about 100 different reasons. And I'm going to rely on people like Chris to tell us how they count impressions and all that. I still have to metabolize this because this is legit bonkers, but this is something, I was just looking for like large retaliation verdicts. This is one that the EEOC got this is a while ago, where the EEOC, can bring claims on behalf of people. This is where they got for a hospital administrator who was retaliated against for trying to stop sexual harassment of patients in operating rooms. And she got $4 million from the hospital, if that puts it in perspective of what these claims look like when they're really, really bad. Now, this is 2003. Let's say she got $8 million now, which is not inflation, but these numbers are off the fucking charts.